everyone, my name is Jalen Pachenik. Thank you so much for joining us on the stream. I am the Community Herald for Apocalypse Studios. We're here promoting our new game, Dead House Sonata. I am joined, of course, by our CEO and founder of Apocalypse, Dennis Dyack.
Hello.
How are you today, Dennis?
Good, Jalen. How are you? Welcome to the streams.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
And I am, of course, joined by our lovely associate producer, Ian Stenhouse.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Good, really good. Excited to watch you play Legacy of Kain here.
Yeah, I was just mentioning the Discord. Get ready to hear a lot of the Heart of Darknesses. So.
Yeah, I've been prepped on a lot of the memes for this game and everything that the community likes to point out.
Okay, let's dive right in.
Oh, wow. It's quite a bit of time you've put into this one.
That's okay.
Now, we may have a couple difficulties with frame rates on the stream right now. We just moved into a new office, so you have to forgive us if we have any drop frames from Twitch, but we're working on it as soon as we can. I believe we have a question from our Discord first for you, Dennis.
Okay.
Do werewolves and werebats have a separate lore behind them besides being just a transformation for vampires? Is there a reason they have these forms? And that was from Varric Keldon on our Discord.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great question. So I think any good game should have developed lore behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're going to find with Dead House Sonata is we're going to extensively research all the mythologies around it and create something that is cohesive with the new world of Dead House Sonata that I think people from the Legacy of Kain community will obviously be able to relate to. And so the answer is absolutely yes. And the idea is to have lots of story behind it so people can understand why that shape-shifting occurs and what it has to do with the vampire. So yeah. And I remember in the Discord someone saying pack of rats, please, as a transformation. Huge Bram Stoker's Dracula fan. Actually, we used that was one of our biggest, references visually for Legacy of Kain. I must have watched Bram Stoker's Dracula like 1,000 times, so I love that film. So anyway, the answer is yes, and we will develop it, and we look forward to rolling that out and getting lots of feedback from the community on what they think.
Would there be any other types of transformations?
Oh yes. So I know there was questions about a Draco Lich, which is essentially a magical undead dragon, which are really cool. Werebats, werebears. I like werebears. I understand werebears are big in Russia. I actually love the concept of a werebear. And I think in general, there's so many ways we can take vampires, and vampire lore, surprisingly, in my eyes, is one of the. There's so much out there, so many different backgrounds and different mythologies, especially when you look at. I think there's some really interesting Indian-based vampires and just really gross stuff that's out there that I think we can apply to some of the mythologies and really work it in to what we're doing. And so vampires are almost in every culture. So, I think there's a lot we can do.
You had mentioned the Draco Lich earlier, and someone in the Discord today was asking, I can't remember the name right now, but why give the Draco Lich to the vampire? I mean, it has the Lich in the name. Wouldn't that make more sense for a Lich to be some sort of, not a transformation or a alternate form or...
Well, that's a good question, and so a Draco Lich is essentially a dragon that is so magically orientated and gone in the direction of a lich that it becomes undead, but the vampire is a shapeshifter, and so for him to shapeshift into a Draco Lich would make sense. Now you would have to go towards the magical end of the spectrum for a vampire when you're doing your skill trees, but it doesn't mean it's mutually exclusive to the vampire. We haven't really explored the amount of shapeshifting of other classes, but certainly the vampire is going to be the master of shapeshifting. So.
Okay, interesting. Because they are in the middle of the trinary archetypes. That
Correct.
Makes sense that they would have the most amount of...
He's the most flexible, or they, so he or she are the most flexible in of all the classes. Yeah, Vampire's right in the middle.
Okay. We have a question from Twitch from Raven Scar right now that says, question, what loot model do you intend for Dead House Sonata?
Oh, that's a good question. So the loot model, I would say, very similar to Diablo, Path of Exile, where there's modifiers. However, we want to work narrative into our crafting systems. So one of the things that we've talked about in previous videos is we want to have ages in history play part of the game. So if you create something or craft something in the first age, over time it can imbue more and more power and become this super rare artifact and very powerful. And the idea of, what's the right word, getting that out there to other players, so it has to remain super rare. Those are the kind of fun things we want to do. So obviously, randomly, procedurally, generating loot is very important. But at the same time, what I most remember when I'm playing these games is something special that I found. And that if we can have players make a difference in the game from a narrative perspective that also affects the gameplay, that's some really cool unexplored territory that we're going to try to cover. So I hope that answers the question, but that's kind of where our ideas are going right now.
Okay, yeah, so similar, something like Diablo.
Yep.
I know that there was another question about loot that had, about loot ninjas specifically. So, Ian finds a sword that I would really like instead. How will the two of us get the same loot? Will I be able to say I need this while Ian just wants it? And
I'll
we
fight
can
you.
say,
Loot
I
distribution
will fight you
models
for
for
it.
co-op. Oh yeah, it's always a tough one. So generally, the parameters that I have traditionally followed that I enjoy playing myself, and we have yet to fully flesh this out. So any feedback from the community we'd love to hear. But basically, fighting over loot and having loot ninjas is a net negative for the entire party.
I agree.
So what we would probably do would be dynamically allocate rare items to each class, which would be done per class. So you go on a huge raid, you get a chance of a rare item, everyone gets that rare item that would work for their class, rather than people have to fight over, the sword of killing everything.
Yep.
For the vampire or for the revenant. So essentially, done right, there should never be fighting over loot.
Good. Lots of time spent in World of Warcraft doing that.
Yes.
It's just not a positive.
No, net negative. Yeah, we'll avoid that stuff.
We have another question. This is from Darula on our forums. Wraiths seem like genies. They're ethereal, non-corporeal, and tied to one specific object. Is this understanding correct? Can wraiths be contained to a living entity, and do they suffer when their physical host takes damage, such as when a wraith possesses somebody? So there's a couple questions in there. We'll deal with the first part, I guess. Wraiths seem like genies. They're ethereal, non-corporeal, and tied to an object. Is this understanding correct?
I think that's some of the mythologies associated with wraiths. So wraiths are, ethereal. So far, if you look on our webpage, everything I think so far has been physical, in the material plane. Wraiths are not; they're in the ethereal plane. So all undead are tied to objects. So the way I would describe our death system is you can go from 3 states and transfer between any of those 3 states of material, magical, or essential. And essentials tied to an object, magicals tied to ethereal, and the material is obviously physical. So wraiths are, as far as our delivery of the game, are torturous spirits, relying a lot on pain, and are very haunted. But there's so many different ways you can go with wraiths. And I know, especially with a lot of the Legacy of Kain community, where Raziel was a wraith, There's a lot of people saying, "Are you going in this direction?" And the great thing is, just like vampires we were talking about earlier, there's such a vast depth of lore and material that we'll be exploring. I think we're doing things that are traditional, but just slightly differently. So race will all fit into our basically our methodology will be focusing on the trinary system, where they're not always tied to an object, but every undead is tied to that objects as well. So, like with a vampire, they will also, if they're out of the material plane and out of the ethereal plane, they will go to an object just like every other type of undead will in Deadhouse Sonata. That's our system. I hope that makes sense. I went on too long. I apologize.
I think, and you also partially answered the second half of that question. That was, could a wraith be tied to a living entity rather than a physical one? They can.
Well, so when you, in the contained, I guess it's coming down to what's the definition of a phylactery.
Okay.
Right. So a lich, as an example, is another really good. When you say look at the Harry Potter stuff, or you look at just liches in general. In order to truly kill a lich, you have to destroy the phylacteries. Mm-hmm. And in Deadhouse Sonata, phylacteries are essentially the essential plane, or the essential area. So each type of class has a representation in each area. So the physical or the material plane, the magical, the ethereal, or in the essential and the contained. So, yeah, the answer. So the answer is your phylactery could be anything.
Okay. And then, so say you had a person as a phylactery, would that wraith suffer when that person takes physical damage? Since a wraith has no physical form, is there any way for that to sort of affect them in their essential form?
So, the way to think about our system and the way that we're envisioning it, and we'd love feedback on this, so is imagine material, magical, and essential as 3 meters. So, and if a phylactery was a person and that person takes damage, your essential meter will go down, just like hit points.
Okay.
And if you have, magical and physical left, then you'll transfer to one of those planes of existence, I guess is the right way to describe it. So, yes, you will take damage, but you only meet true death if you're out of everything. And then you go to dust.
All 3 different meters.
Right, correct.
Okay. I haven't gotten this far in my playthrough, Ian. What was that big blood fountain that you found? I saw that briefly. And
I just wasted a magic thing. There are these fountains, and I'm not sure what they're called, but there's these certain fountains you can get that refill all of your health and grant you a bonus. So I believe that one...
I think it's called the Blood Fountain.
Oh, Blood Fountain? Okay.
That would make sense. Yep.
So I think that one made me a bit more resistant to water damage. There was one that made me lose less health in the daylight, or made me stronger in the daylight or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's sort of what those are. If you find them, they're
really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the plan is I'll be taking over and playing next week. But if you're over there at your desk, I'm going to be asking you questions every 5 minutes.
It's totally okay.
We have another question from our Twitch chat. This is from Kyle Fearson, I believe is how that's pronounced. Have you ever been involved or heard of any talk of Legacy of Kain Blood Omen getting a remaster?
Yes. I don't know if I can talk about it though. And I'm only going to talk about Live in Fashions. Besides what I've already talked about before, that I was involved in creative lead on the complete reboot of the series. Just never happened, unfortunately. But yeah. I don't know if it'll. So, I guess the way to understand what's happening with the video games industry, and I think why the Legacy of Kain community, and even myself as a game designer, are so frustrated with today's video game industry, is 90% of all video game revenue is now free to play. Majority of the industry, probably 90%, maybe 99%, think that is not compatible with narrative. So Legacy of Kain is a narrative-driven single-player game, and if all your revenue is coming from a completely different genre, not this genre, people are like, wow, we're not going to do this game because we're not going to make any money. So our goal with Dead House Sonata and why we're saying we want to do narrative online is to keep games like Legacy of Kain alive. Now, we obviously have to change things because of the medium, but the core experience that we're shooting for is going to be narrative driven. So I think you're seeing a lot of ideas about rebooting and doing this kind of thing from a nostalgia point of view. People are like, yes. The problem is when you have the people who are paying for it looking at what the P&L is going to be like, and they look at the numbers compared to if you're going to do a free-to-play game that's got recurring revenue that you get money every month. They have to make a choice between which games they're going to make. Games that are no longer, quite frankly, profitable, people tend to stay away from. So I think that's why you're not seeing a lot of reboots like this. And I'm a big believer in narrative-driven games. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing Dead House Sonata. We want to prove to the world that we can do narrative games in a free-to-play space. But certainly that's why probably everyone is as frustrated as, frankly, I was as well. So I want to see these things happen. We're now going down the path that we think is the best way that these kind of games can be made now.
As far as you're allowed to say, this will be the closest to a remaster.
Correct. Well, yeah, it's not a reboot; it's a spiritual successor. But yeah, the closest that we see anything like Legacy of Kain happening is Dead House Sonata. And you know, we could be wrong, and I'd love to see it myself. But I've done as much as I could in this area, being the original creator and knowing all the people that I know in the industry. So we're trying.
Okay.
My health turned green, Dennis. Do you know what that means?
It means you're poisoned.
Oh.
Yeah, serves you right.
See, your health is dropping faster than normal.
Well, how do I...
Yeah, don't be drinking the blood of...
I didn't drink his blood.
You just did.
Oh, so this is... Oh, okay, so this... I didn't know what this spell did.
Well, that... Yes.
So it just means I can...
Yeah, but see, you hit something with poison blood.
I can see that now.
Yeah.
Nope, werewolves can't jump that. Dennis, we have a question from our forums. This is from Jarula. Is the concept of true names for Dead House Sonata based on any other system?
Oh, I think it's based off of the classic true names that are in the Bible, if you know the true name of a demon. So it goes back even pre-biblical, I think. But if you know the true name of, say, a demon, you will control them. And there's lots of narrative and literature around that. One of my favorite series, the Gentleman Bastard series, I recommend. Gentleman Bastard Cycle, I think it's called, where all the magic systems are based off of true names. So is it based off of any game system that I know? No. But is it based off a lot of literature that I've read that goes all the way back to the Bible? Yeah, absolutely. So we all stand on the shoulders of giants.
The heart of
There's
darkness.
quite a bit of literature and lore surrounding that, so I guess it would be hard to just pinpoint one.
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's you know, in popular culture today, it's not talked about much. And one of the things that we're really going to focus on as a theme in Dead House Sonata is truth, and what is the meaning of truth, and what does truth really mean, as truth is a two-edged sword. But that's one of the things we're going to be focusing on in the game, and I hope people really enjoy that theme. I know I do. Finding out the truth can often be really good and often very painful. So.
At the same time,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Yes.
We have a question from our Discord. This is from Golden Zan. Will skill trees have branches within branches, or will they be more linear to focus on specific play styles?
Oh, that's really difficult question to answer because of context, and there's so many different types of skill trees. So let me sort of clear a couple things up that I think this is where Golden Zan is going. So when we started looking at Dead House Sonata, we wanted to decide, do we want to do a skill graph like Path of Exile, where there's this beautiful all-encompassing skill tree that is really difficult understand entirely. However, once you do understand it, there's so much customization. It's amazing. We looked at that, and then we looked at class skill trees, each ones that are based on class and are typical and hierarchical. We want to do and have some asymmetry in the game. And Path of Exile, and I love Path of Exile, to be clear. I think it's a great game, but it's very symmetrical. So the difference in the classes is basically where you start on that big graph. So we're not doing a graph. We're doing skill trees. So there will be sub-branches and subclasses, but each different class will have its own dedicated skill tree. So just so, and I guess that's more closer to games like Diablo, where Path of Exile's got one graph for the entire game, which is also cool. And would love to hear feedback on that, but that's the direction we're going in right now. So love to hear feedback, but that's my and the team's personal opinion on the direction to go. So I hope that answers the question.
I hope so. I'm sure we'll hear from Golden Zan.
We'll hear from Golden Zan if it's not.
Yeah, no worries. We'll clarify after. This is a question from Cradless on Discord. What will be the main influences on the undead design? Traditional European, Egyptian undead, or something else?
I love them all. Penny Dreadful, I love the take that they had on the vampires and the sort of Egyptian mythology that they put on in that stuff. I think you're going to get a mix of the undead, which is going to be traditional European with some Egyptian. You can see that in the design of Anumat. But quite frankly, that's pretty in Egypt, and a combination of that and some medieval lore. So I think that's and some European lore. So that's where we're going with the House of the Dead. Different houses are going to be pulling from different cultures. So say, as an example, and this is just an example to give you the spirit and not the details, but when we talk about, say, something like Giga House, House of the Giants, likely to have a lot more Nordic lore with, storm giants and, all the type of giants that you typically see in Norse mythology, as an example.
Mm-hmm. Right, that makes sense. The Egyptian undead, I think, is one of my favorite sort of designs. There's Warhammer Total War has the tomb princes that are undead Egyptian princes that mummified themselves that way to be preserved for the next life. I think that's a really cool theme, and I'd love to see what we do for Dead House Sonata, mixing that with the European lore. And
we're going to be doing some of that.
Okay, we are back. Hello, my name is Jenna Pachenik. I'm the Community Herald for Dead House Sonata. I'm joined by our CEO and founder of Apocalypse Studios, Dennis Dyack.
Hello.
Apologies for the communications issues. We just moved offices this week. Still trying to get the internet sort of figured out while we watch Ian Stenhouse, our associate producer, not assistant producer. Associate. He is the assistant to no one. Helps himself, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite the introduction. Thank you, Jalen.
Hey, no problem. It's what I'm here for, right?
Yes.
Where are you going right now in Legacy of Kain? Can you walk me through what you're doing?
Well, I just cleared... Oh. I just cleared a dungeon, and I got the spell that allows me to give the graveyard suck to those who are very distant to me. So I can suck their blood even if I'm not right beside them, which is very helpful. So right now, well, honestly, since I can't hear the game too well, I can't tell you exactly what I'm doing, but I know that... Step into it, okay. I know that the goal of this is to, I'm assuming, kill the next Guardian, Pillar Guardian. So I would say I am on my way to go do that. I know there's a bunch of... Where's it? There we go. There's a bunch of caves and stuff. Came from up there. There's a cave right there. I think there's a cave right there. So I'm just making my way downtown.
Walking fast.
Faces past in a little bit.
I like the term graveyard suck.
Yep. You gotta feast on their blood. That's what I'm doing.
That's what you do as a vampire, obviously.
Vampires gotta live.
Do they live, though?
I died.
Another Heart of Darkness.
I'm running low on those. I have one left, boys.
We're experiencing quite a few technical difficulties right now. As I said
Sorry.
earlier, we had just moved offices this week. We're in contact with our service provider to see if we can figure out what's going on here. But until the meantime, we may end up with a couple other issues. We'll see how long we can keep this going for, though. We're here for you guys, so as
We're
long as we
really
can
sorry.
be here, we will be.
It is our number one priority to get this fixed. We didn't anticipate any problems today, but this is our first stream at the new location, and we will make sure that we're on top of it, and we'll be figuring it out by next week. So we do apologize. We're so sorry. We're doing our best.
Yep, unfortunately, it's all that we can do right now. It's the problem with live, anything live. I get you could call this show business, Twitch. It's very difficult sometimes. Doesn't always want to work. You can give them the graveyard stuff right through the wall.
I don't think that's a wall. I think that's a
Spike pit.
ledge.
Yeah, it's a spike pit.
Oh, the perspective.
I like that it one-shots them,
the other
though.
way.
Yep.
Can I get these guys? Oh,
Always so sad. Oh, it doesn't match.
it's a free meal. Okay. Ooh, I was really low on health there for quite a while, and I'm low on the hearts of darknesses. So, yeah, let's get back into it.
There are very few things in video games as satisfying as a one-hit kill.
That is true. Can I jump this?
You can.
Do I want
Oh
to?
no, I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
Because
I
that's
don't know.
that's a level up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was messing me up with the perspective. The wall is going up, and there's spikes at the top of it. Okay. Now it makes sense.
Okay. Awesome. Oh, what is this?
It's a brain, obviously.
Is this the one that allows me
This
to
spell
control
allows
brains?
me to enslave my enemies, giving
Mind
me
control.
control of their
Oh,
bodies. When I release my
So
I think
it's like-
so.
bodies
Well,
I use-
shrivel
don't
and
use it.
die as
No,
I
I-
displace
Oh no, that's the bloodsuck.
their
You gotta
souls
select your
and
spell, buddy.
repl-
No. There you go.
there we
with
go.
my own.
Do it.
I
Do
don't-
it.
I don't think I have enough.
Don't put your orb out. Use
there
one of
you
your
go.
orbs.
So I'll try it on this guy.
All right, I was gonna say use one of your orbs, buddy.
I will, but I.
There you go. You're controlling them. Look.
Oh.
Look at this. You can control any player in this game, and
Do I
the
lose health?
Can you
combinations
make him
are.
kill himself?
No, I don't think I can. Oh,
Yeah, you did. I think you just did.
nice. Okay,
So,
there's a table of
so
cups right here.
now what you want to do is take them to a blood forge and watch what happens. Or spirit forge, I should say. You know how you can exchange,
and sacrifice.
exchange, blood for items. So what you want to do is you want to mind control exactly.
Oh. Come on.
Yeah, give it a shot. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
your buddy's trying to kill you.
buddies do not like that. Well, to be fair, that's
This is interesting. I don't think I've seen this sort of puzzle before in a game. Yeah, if you
No,
wanna
no,
call
yeah,
it a
no, for
puzzle.
sure. I think possession. One of the things that I'm really proud of for Legacy of Kain is when we were making this. So I was programming it, but I was also designing it at the same time. So you have a lot of time to think about the systems, and I remember thinking about some of these things that wouldn't it be cool if you could control. So you literally can control any enemy in this game.
Even
And-
the skeletons.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's pretty interesting stuff from I think a gameplay perspective. It creates some pretty emerging gameplay that for its day was no one did this back then.
No. Will we see similar features in Dead House Sonata?
Yes.
The idea of possession to take an enemy to a specific spot to use him for something.
Well, I think these kind of spells and enabling this kind of gameplay is really cool, and I want to take it further. So, we talk about previously about different weather systems and different moon cycles and stuff like that. These are the kind of things like casting spells that would affect weather and affect the game. That stuff is, I think that combined with this kind of thing is the way to go. So yeah, the answer is yeah. I just, obviously you gotta love what you make, but I really loved what we did with Legacy of Kain on some of the permutations and combinations of the spells, and the different types of blood, and all the different gameplay mechanics.
Since you get to play as the undead in Dead House Sonata and as Legacy of Kain, I guess that opens up the door for magic and abilities that are typically only used by bad guys.
Yeah.
Mind control is one of them, I would think, that only villains use that, not good guys, not heroes. But you aren't necessarily a hero in Legacy of Kain or potentially Dead House Sonata.
Yeah, I'm not a. I really. That's so one of the big influences in Blood Omen Legacy of Kain was the Unforgiven, and in that movie, I really liked the way that everyone was portrayed as gray, and that's what I would say. Legacy of Kain is good, bad. It's all a matter of perspective. No one truly thinks they're evil, and no one truly, everyone thinks they're good, I guess. And when I don't know if I'm just going to make some assumptions that people have seen Unforgiven, but you look at Little Bill, who you really dislike at the beginning, and then in the end, when he's dying, he said all he wanted to do was build his porch. You empathize, and same with Clint Eastwood's character, who you think is really cool at first, and in the end, when he just starts getting really drunk and killing everybody, you start thinking, hey, maybe this character's not the hero I thought he was. And I think, so are we going to see spells that are naturally associated with the undead and things that people don't naturally? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I guess I think we can really shine in what's Undiscovered Country is how do we get people to relate or empathize with a world where you're better off dead than alive, and that's going to be one of the things we focus on. So,
okay, we now have a question from Twitch. We apologize if we're having any more dropped frames or any sort of issues on Twitch. Like I said earlier, we're in contact with our network provider. We're going to try and get that fixed as soon as possible, at the very least for next week's stream. But for now, we have a question from Nightfall_Alicorn. Will Dead House Sonata feature a time of day and moon phase system, like full, half, and quarter? This is from Twitch chat.
100%. It will. We will be modeling an entire solar system. So not only will we have moon phases, we'll have solar eclipses. We will have seasons of summer, spring, winter, fall. And there will be time of day, weather systems, all of the above. I really loved that part in Legacy of Kain, and having like the moon gates that would only open on full moons, and gamers can expect that with Dead House Sonata, absolutely.
That would have been my next question, something along those lines of if you have a full season, only some quests or objectives can only be completed at the blood moon or a full moon or in the dead of winter, the winter solstice or something like that.
Yep.
Still trying to find the blood sanctuary.
I need to hit a switch over here, and I've run out of materials to do so.
Uh-oh. As we turn to our walkthrough, sitting on the couch beside us.
Well, I would like to ask the chat what to do when I'm out of resources.
Out of resources? How are you out of resources?
Well, I need to get up here, so either I wait for my magic to regenerate, or well, no, that's about it, because I have...
No, you want to cast a spell and possess, right? Get the try?
Yeah, so I need magic to do that.
Well, it's coming back. Would you have an orb?
No.
Oh.
I've died a lot of times.
Should've
Well,
brought
sorry.
an orb.
I think the solution is to get good.
The guy died a lot of times, and I have to use an orb every time I want to get a guy, so...
So it wasn't you dying. It was the NPCs you mind controlled.
Yeah, it's
And
the fact that they're one hit kills, right?
Yeah, I think in Twitch chat right now I can see it's just get good. Lots of get goods.
No Fs, just get good.
Oh, you're getting some Fs, buddy.
Okay. Oh, my controller's going crazy.
Golden Zan has a question from the Discord. We just talked about different seasons, but how many different environments will Dead House Sonata have?
Lots. Right now, we're so early in development that you're only seeing very few things. So we're working on. So there's a procedurally generated town environment that we'll be dropping a video next week on that is getting more polished. But now you're going to start to see other environments like Necropolis's. We have a Dark Cathedral coming that's really excited about. But there's going to be tons of different environments. And I think each time we release a new house, this is way farther down the road, expect entirely different, entire directions for how environments look beyond what we already have. You combine that with the seasons and time of day, moon cycles, the year, I guess, the year system or yearly system, which essentially simulates every day and every month, every year. You're going to get quite a lot of dynamicy in the actual environment. So seeing something in winter is going to look very different than it is in spring, and watching the leaves change color, all that stuff's going to be happening in the games. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I've already seen some pretty amazing work that you guys are doing, working on the environments, a lot of graveyards and cathedrals that in the fog and with the moonlight coming through or the sunlight, it would look very different in either or, and I'm not sure which one would be prettier. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming, so there'll be a lot of variations in environment. Mm-hmm. We have a question. I believe this is from our Twitch chat. Will there be any sort of karma systems in Dead House Sonata? Not necessarily in terms of good or bad stuff, like achieving blessings or curses from the gods of this game for our actions. That's from Jen Feelgood on Twitch.
That's a great question. To be determined. I certainly, personally, I like the concept. I think for every action there should be a ramification, and for every system you want to have an opposite and equal reaction in some way. Those are the best systems, and we'll certainly try to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. I guess the undead don't particularly care for being good or altruism or anything like that. Their karma system wouldn't be based on morals.
Yeah, well, the undead are different, that's for sure. And their goals for existence are different than people who are alive. So, okay.
We have another question from Twitch. This is from Amzer, I believe. Will Dead House Sonata have skins of Legacy of Kain characters? Mortanius, DeJewel, etc.
Well, exact ones, I guess we would have to look to see, I guess talk to Square Enix and stuff for licensing or something like that to see if something like that would be possible. So I guess we'd have to wait and see. In the end, everything in Dead House Sonata is going to be original. However, there's all kinds of opportunities when it comes to doing certain things. So if there's a huge request that people want some direct Legacy of Kain stuff, I guess we can always talk and inquire with the Square Enix people.
You mentioned earlier with the Wraiths. I know that there are quite a few Raziel fans in the Discord.
See something like
Raziel.
Raziel?
Love to see something like that. And if it's for cosmetics and things like that, that's definitely closer towards the end of development. You start looking at that, right? That's not something you'd even think about.
Well, cosmetics will be in right from the beginning. It's just there'll be less of them. So in the first age, we'll certainly have them. And doing something that's within a certain universe, obviously, Square Enix owns the rights for Legacy of Kain. So to put something in this directly for that game would require a discussion with them, which I'm happy to have. So if there's a big enough demand, we can certainly talk to them.
Okay. I think that is just about all the time that we have for today. We're experiencing a couple more technical difficulties, so I think we're just going to end the stream here. My name is Jalen Pachenik for Dead House Sonata. I've been joined by our associate producer, Ian Stenhouse, our CEO and founder, Dennis Dyack. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find more information about our upcoming game, Dead House Sonata, at deadhousesonata.com. Highly recommend you go join our forums or check out our Discord and check out our store page to become part of our first age and purchase a Founders Pack.
Yeah, sorry everybody. We're having extreme internet issues. Otherwise, we had planned to go longer, but we think it's going to end in everyone's frustration because we've been popping out several times, and we need to get to the bottom of these internet issues. We will strive diligently to have this fixed by next week. Our apologies.
If there is any frustrations, we're just as frustrated as you guys are. So, yeah. Hopefully we'll get it figured out for next week.
Thank you for joining, though, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We
Have a
appreciate
great
it.
night.
All right, take
Talk to you
care.
guys
Have a
next
good
week.
weekend, everybody.